All right, let's get into it. Today, we're putting together a kind of user's guide. A guide to some of the most fascinating and, yeah, let's be real, some of the weirdest ideas that we humans have ever come up with to try and figure everything out.
I mean, that's the big one, isn't it? When you really stop and look out at the universe, at everything, what tools you even use to make sense of it all? What's the language you use to describe your own reality?
Because, that's really what all our belief systems are when you get down to it. They're maps. Over all of history, we've come up with countless different ways of explaining things, from science to mythology to philosophy, and every single one is a unique attempt to chart the vast territory of existence.
So, to get a better handle on this, we're going to look through three really distinct lenses and try to think of them not as competing ideas, but more like different ways to focus on the incredibly complex picture that is the universe.
Okay, so let's start with lens one, the universal code. This is the idea that what if everything around us, everything, from a single living cell to the entire cosmos, was running on a kind of cosmic software? A system that, if we could just get smart enough, we could learn to read, and maybe, just maybe, even rewrite.
So to even begin to understand this code, we need this one key concept, autopoiesis. It sounds complicated, but it's this incredible idea of self-creation. Just think about a living cell. It doesn't have some foreman with a blueprint telling it what to do. No, it constantly builds and maintains itself using its own parts. This is like a fundamental rule in the code of life. It's what separates the living from the non-living.
And if you think of life as a self-writing code, well then the ultimate quest for some people is to write a brand new one from scratch, artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Now this is not the AI that's on your phone. AGI is this theoretical kind of holy grail of AI, a generalized intelligence that could learn and solve any problem with a real degree of self-awareness.
And this really shows you the massive gap between where we are now and that potential future. On the one hand, you've got the AI we all use every day. They're amazing tools, but they're specialized for just one job, like translating a sentence. But on the other hand, you have the dream of AGI, a system with the same flexible, creative, problem-solving intelligence that we have, a whole different ballgame. It's kind of fascinating how different systems imagine their own endgame. Our modern code-based worldview has the singularity, that moment when technology just spirals beyond our comprehension and control. But go back in time, and ancient Norse mythology had its own version, Ragnarok, the epic battle that ends the world. They come from completely different universes of thought, but they're both stories about a final irreversible system reboot.
So that brings us to our second lens. Let's switch gears a bit. What if reality isn't some logical system that we're supposed to solve? What if instead it's a story that we're meant to interpret, a grand narrative just filled with meaning, metaphor, and important lessons?
Now, a key tool in this storyteller's view of the world is allegory. It's basically a story where the characters and events are symbols for bigger, more abstract ideas. The classic example is George Orwell's Animal Farm. On the surface, it's about farm animals, right? But it's not really about pigs and horses. It's this incredibly powerful allegory for the Russian Revolution. It shows how we use stories to get our heads around really complex truths.
And in this world of stories, you find some of the most profound narratives about what it means to be human. In Buddhism, there's the idea of the bodhisattva. This is a person who has achieved enlightenment, who could enter nirvana, but they choose not to. They stay in the cycle of rebirth out of pure compassion, just to help every other suffering being find their own way. It's really the ultimate story of selflessness.
But stories can get twisted too. The philosopher Jean Baudrillard had this wild idea. He argued that our modern world, just saturated with media, is full of simulacra, copies of things that don't even have an original anymore. He basically thought we're all living in a state of hyperreality, where the signs and symbols of things have become more real and more important than the actual things themselves.
And then, as a complete contrast to that world of hyperreality, you have this fundamental statement from René Descartes. He was looking for just one single, unshakable truth in a world full of doubt, and he found it in the simple act of thinking. He realized the very fact that he could doubt his existence proved that a self had to exist to do the doubting. I think, therefore I am.
So, our third and final lens takes us way out there, to the absolute fringes of our maps of reality, to the places where our understanding just completely breaks down. This is where we run smack into paradoxes and deep, deep mysteries that challenge our most basic ideas about how the world works.
So, welcome to the bizarre world of quantum mechanics. Here you have a phenomenon called entanglement. This is where two particles can become linked. They basically share the same existence. Now, here's the weird part. If you measure a property of one of those particles, you instantly, and I mean instantly, influence the other one, even if it's on the complete opposite side of the universe.
And this is so deeply strange that even Albert Einstein, of all people, was totally unsettled by it. He famously called it spooky action at a distance, because it just seems to break one of the most fundamental rules of the universe, that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. And look, this isn't just some weird little quirk. It seems to be a fundamental feature of our universe, which forces us to ask these massive questions. Are two things on opposite sides of the galaxy really separate? Or is the universe way more interconnected than we ever could have imagined?
Okay, now for a truly mind-bending thought experiment. It's called the Boltzmann brain. The idea goes like this. Over an almost infinite amount of time, it's actually statistically possible for a fully formed, self-aware brain, complete with a lifetime of false memories, to just randomly pop into existence out of pure chaos. It's a wild paradox that cosmologists use to test which of their theories about the universe are even remotely plausible.
And all these bizarre ideas just remind us that our entire map of reality isn't permanent. It's not set in stone. A paradigm shift is a complete revolution in our thinking. It's not just about adding a few new details to the map, it's about throwing the old map out entirely and drawing a new one. Think about the shift from believing the Earth was the center of the universe to knowing it revolves around the sun. A total game changer.
So, after going through all these strange, profound, and sometimes confusing ideas, let's bring it all back home. How do all these different ways of seeing things actually come together to form a worldview?
So we've basically looked at three different ways of viewing the world, right? We've seen it as a logical code that we can try to crack. We've seen it as a human story that we interpret for meaning. And we've seen it as a profound mystery that's always just beyond our reach. Each one gives us a totally different angle.
And honestly, here is the most important takeaway from all of this. You don't have to choose just one. These aren't competing realities. They are all tools for your own mental toolkit. You can absolutely appreciate the logical beauty of a physical law and be deeply moved by a powerful story and stand in complete awe of a cosmic mystery, all at the exact same time. And that really leaves us with the final question. For you, when you look out at the world, what's your mix? What combination of these tools do you use? Is your reality something that's driven by code? Is it shaped by story? Or is it defined by the mysteries that we have yet to solve?